Chapter 19, chapter 19. We are so close to the finish line. All right, so this chapter is how to take your relationship to the next level. I think that all relationships, mother daughter, father son, vice versa, your partner in life, every relationship has an infinite number of levels that we can go to. If you're in a relationship with someone and you're thinking, oh, we're stagnant, we're hit a plateau, that's where we want to tap into curiosity. That's where we want to become deeply curious with that person, no matter what the relationship is tap into the childlike curiosity that we all are familiar with, that maybe is covered up with a lot of thought and a lot of life and a lot of bills and a lot of all the things, right? So this chapter, I'm gonna probably go a little bit of a different direction than where Mel went with this chapter. So just hang with me, see if there's something that you can, and I would love to know if there's something that you learn in my reflection, something that maybe you haven't heard before, or something you haven't heard in a while, something that gives some value or meaning, or that aha moment. I love hearing your comments and feedback. So, what if you're in a relationship? Let's just assume a committed relationship, no matter what that looks like for you. And maybe it is in a romantic relationship where you're hoping it goes to the next level, right? I think that's kind of where Mel was with this chapter. It's been a few days since I read the chapter because I have a lot of construction going on around my house. And so I wasn't able to plan this recording with ease. So today I had scheduled to do a different podcast with somebody else being the guest, and that somehow got moved or shifted. And so anyways, I'm here doing this recording while I pre-program this quiet time without the construction noise in the background. But anyway, so the direction or the chapter, I think, is really about wanting to go to the next level, right? Wanting your relationship, whatever that is. And I think that the big concentration is on a commitment, right? Wanting to be, I don't know, nowadays, my daughters are in their 20s and labels aren't a thing, which is always interesting. Me growing up, we love labels as far as being girlfriend or boyfriend or being monogamous, or I don't know, are we going steady? Anyways, but it's a little different nowadays. They don't, and I think that's fun, right? No labels. I think that's fun. I think it's flirty. I think it's exciting. Although I do believe that clear communication and agreements can help prevent confusion. Anyways, all right, so let's say that you're in a relationship, you haven't committed, that there hasn't been a definition or a label placed on the relationship, and the thought is they don't want to commit to me. Okay, so they don't want to commit to me is the thought. Often when we try, right? When I think of the word try, there's some pressure behind it. When we try to take our relationship to the next level, there is a sense of wanting to control the outcome. There's a sense of wanting to feel safe. There's a sense of wanting to put a label on it. There's a sense of wanting some clarity, some rules, maybe some bumpers, parameters, what's expected, what's not expected. Really, it's so when we have a thought of they don't want to commit to me, it's really leaning in and getting more clarity. How do we know that that's true? Right? Unless they've actually said that, look, I don't want to commit to you. That's clear, right? There's still an opportunity to get curious. What else? What does it look like? What does our future look like 3, 4, 6 months, a year down the road? Get some clarity on what their reality is, what their perspective is, what they're wanting, desiring, or hoping for in this relationship. When we stick to that thought of they don't want to commit without curiosity, without communication, without seeking to understand the other person and their come from, what they envision, what they want, desire, crave, it can cause a lot of stress and strain in that relationship. and a lot of mental and emotional suffering, because we're operating from a place of insecurity. We're operating from a place of lack. We're operating from a place of neediness, and it's fear-based thinking. So sometimes if we get stuck in that loop of they won't commit to me, or they don't want to commit to me, without clarity, without communication, without understanding, we can operate from a place of wanting to fix things, change things, wanting to dictate, wanting to bend reality, wanting to rule, wanting things to force things to be a certain way, or bend reality, pushing. We might operate from a mothering type role, or again, wanting things to be a certain way to feel safe. That's exhausting. That's exhausting. And if we don't speak up and get clarity, it can oftentimes result in more of what you don't want. Okay, so if we're not asking for clarity, not seeking to understand, the result might be a loss of a relationship with that person completely. That person's insecurities will rise if yours are rising, because relationships are a dance, and they might block you. They might put more distance between you and them. They might ghost you. They might, avoid you at all costs. In the book, Mel emphasizes that the key to advancing any relationship is it's not through control. It's not through manipulation. It's not strong arming them into thinking, doing, and behaving in a way that you want them to. It's really important to have clear, healthy, honest communication about what your values are, what's important to you, what you desire, what you hope for in this relationship, or maybe in a connection or a lifetime partner, if that's what you're hoping that this turns into. And what I do think that when we communicate from a feeling, a good feeling on how we want to feel, maybe it's wanting to feel safe. Maybe it's wanting to feel connected. Maybe it's wanting to feel secure. Maybe it's wanting to feel, I'm trying to think of another word, calm, at peace, patient, right? So when we start to get words, accumulate words, and be able to describe what it is that we want more of, we can create that dynamic in that relationship. And I would say that most individuals that I interview to be potential clients of mine, they don't know what their values are. They don't know how they want to feel. They're very clear on how they don't want to feel, right? They can describe that for a good 60 minutes with incredible word soup. Like, it's super clear on how they don't want to feel, but they're not able to articulate what they do want to feel. So do you know your values? Do you know what you want in your relationship? Do you know what it looks like? Can you imagine it in such a way that you can articulate it to me, to where I can envision it, right? As a whole different human being with a whole different brain and reality and life and experiences. Can you describe it to me in a way that I could see you living a life that way? Because if you're not able to describe that and you're still describing what you don't want, that's what you're going to attract into your life. You're coming from a needy, grabby energy or vibration or aura, whatever you want to call it. Some people call it manifestation. I don't teach manifestation. I don't come from that paradigm. That's not where I focus my clients on. I do help them and support them in understanding how your words are a window into your mind, and it helps you create the life that you want, right? So if we're constantly focused in on what we don't want, we're not able to articulate what we do want, what ends up happening is we create more of what we don't want because that's all we see. Our brain is brilliant, and we can train our brain to work for us rather than against us. If we live from a life of I feel like doing X, right? So back to the values, right? If you don't know your values and you're operating from I feel like doing whatever right now, right? I feel like staying home and binge watching Netflix. I feel like staying home, baking cookies and eating them in solitary. I feel like taking a break today from work. So I'm going to call in a sick day. I feel like making spaghetti and eating it all alone. I don't know, whatever. Or I feel like ordering pizza, or I feel like uh, tuning out today, ghosting everyone. I feel like whatever it is, right? I feel like when we operate from this paradigm of I feel like, it's basically you're feeding into intrusive thinking in a way, right? So those thoughts that arise and you act right away from thoughts that surface in your brain really, and some people will kind of tell me, oh, but that's isn't that from my heart and my soul? No, that very well, and maybe there is a little bit in that, but it's very ego driven. Okay, so the voice of the ego is incredibly loud. Your heart, your soul, your values, your morals, your principles are a little bit softer voice. So we operate from a life of I feel like doing X. I feel like ignoring everyone today, or I feel like I'm trying to think of one on relationships. I feel like, oh yeah, so back to what we were just talking about. I feel like they don't want to commit to me, right? When we operate from a feeling without being curious that where is that feeling coming from? What is triggering now? What is that voice trying to save me or protect me or guard me from? Right? A lot of times that ego amigo is quite an intrusive saboteur, if you will. So when we operate from I feel like paradigm, we're on an emotional roller coaster. Right? We do, I mean, we are, have you ever been on a roller coaster where it goes back and forth and up and down, and maybe you're in the dark, right? I know a water park nearby that my kids love to go to when they visit. When you're in the dark and you're on the inner tube, and sometimes you're by yourself and sometimes you're with other people, sometimes with strangers, you're in the dark and you're going, and you do not know if you're going left, right, up, down, dropping 30, 40 feet or whatever it is. That's riding on the emotional roller coaster. You're letting your ego, you're letting old programming, old wiring, old conditioning, old beliefs, things that have been pumped into your brain over your lifetime to take control of your life. And when we operate from, I feel like, listening to every time it says, I feel like having a cigarette, or I feel like having a drink, or I feel like doing illegal drugs or whatever, and you operate from that and you react from that place, especially in a relationship, I feel like they don't want to commit to me. I feel like they're being mean to me. I feel like they don't understand me. I feel like all of that creates a life of suffering. That's a life of riding on an emotional roller coaster in the dark. So your values, if you get really clear on your values, and your values are not something that are going to be imprinted on your grave. Your values can shift and mold and pivot and change throughout your life, maybe even week to week, day to day. I don't know, right? Oftentimes when I work with clients, their values get deeper, richer, and clearer over a period of working with them for 3 months. They get very, very clear. They find 5 completely different values that have completely different meanings that feel really good, that give them a compass on, and gives them a guidance system, it's like a lighthouse. It guides them to living their life from empowerment. It helps them stay true to what is meaningful, what is purposeful, what they really truly want. And when they operate from those 5 values over and over and over again in smaller things throughout the day, it gives them the habit, the guiding system, the muscle memory to use it on times that get really tough, right? When the big things hit, where the rug gets ripped out from underneath you in life. Like we all experience that, right? All throughout our life, we have major events to smaller events that if we really understand what our top 5 values are, we have a compass, we have a guide, we have kind of like this internal GPS. Without values, we're just reacting to whatever we're thinking in the moment or whatever's getting programmed or conditioned into our brain. Again, we're in the dark on that inner tube and we don't know if we're going left, right, up, down, all over. So I live in Spokane, Washington. So I live really close to actually a really cool water park in Idaho. So if you're ever in the area, you'll definitely have to check that out. Um, but when you know your values, you can anchor into them. You can have them top of mind. You can reach for them until they become just second nature, right? Again, that muscle memory. And the only way to get familiar with them is to have them top of mind or visual or some sort of anchor that allows you to go, oh, I'm about to make a tough decision. What are my values? How can I make a decision from my values versus reaching for Reddit and asking Reddit, which is a bunch of strangers, maybe some 13-year-old boys that are going to make fun of you, what their thoughts and opinions are, right? So it's really operating from a place of intentionality. It's operating from a place that has purpose and meaning for you, right? No longer reacting to life. It allows you to make decisions from empowerment. It allows you to stay grounded. It allows you to maintain emotional integrity, emotional strength, emotional leadership. It allows you to operate from what's really important to you. So take a moment and maybe even pause this and figure out what are some values? What are your top 5 values or top 10 values, and start to narrow them down. Oftentimes when clients first start working with me, they'll create a long list of values or maybe even just a few, but oftentimes they overlap, right? Because that's their mind is kind of stuck in the rut. They're stuck in a pattern or really suffering in a way that they can only see that one thing. So I really want to encourage you to come up with 5 values that have 5 distinct different meanings, right? Some of them might overlap a little bit, but try to get values that are drastically different. So I did come up with a few, some top examples that are pretty common. And reach out to me. I have a fun quiz. It's not mine. It's free. It's online. It really helps you narrow down 5 values. So message me. I'll supply the link for you guys to take this fun little quiz. And I've taken it. And it's funny, I, keep coming back to the same words. So, which is really good. Like, yeah. So anyways, integrity is definitely top on the list for a very, very common one. It's being able to make decisions. And again, whatever words you come up with, the 5 that you come up with, create your own meaning. Certainly it's nice to know what the Webster dictionary version of the meaning is, but come up with your own meaning, right? So I have clients that use words that the Webster dictionary meaning it's not the same as what their meaning is, like bear or mountain or night, right? There's some, I love it. I really appreciate it when clients come up with words that are, have like mountain or bear or night. All of them, you Google that or look it up on the Webster dictionary. It has the meaning of what that physical thing is or person or animal. But their unique meaning has a lot of depth and richness to it. So integrity will allow you to make, oftentimes, again, come up with your own meanings, but honest, transparent, and true to your word, right? So integrity is a pretty common one. Some people really value that, and they value that in the people that they relate to, right? And personally and professionally. Growth is one of mine. Actually, I have a different word, but that's okay. Again, find a word that has a richness for you. But growth oftentimes would be, wanting to learn and grow and evolve, right? Being able to stretch yourself outside of the comfort zone continually. Connection is another one. I have also a different word, but I do value connection as well. But it's being able to support others, right? Being able to network, connect, relate, help support people. And, oftentimes when we have connection or a similar word, when it has to do with other people, it's also being able to have clear personal boundaries to be able to know when you're going from too much of that, if that makes sense. That goes into the people pleasing category, where we abandon ourselves and we tap into wanting to serve. Another word is service or serve. Because a lot of first responders that I work with that fit in this category, or nurses, doctors, people that really, it's just in their blood, right? But there are times where I have to have the conversation of, where's your personal boundaries? Where are we saying no? Where are we limiting this to the point where it's not tipping over into eroding away your mental, emotional, and physical energy? So little caveat there. Balance is also another pretty popular word over the last probably year, or definitely 2025. Balance is oftentimes, again, pick your own meaning, but rest over overworking, right? So we're wanting to avoid burnout. We're wanting to prioritize your mental, emotional, and physical health, right? That's oftentimes the direction that I think of for balance. Making sure that there's a good balance in your sleep, doing those things that provide some sort of resources or income or benefits that keep your life in a way that stays in tune, right? So it's again an exchange of energy, or in other words, make money. That's important, but also, and I like to split it up in three categories. 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of doing something that provides resources and an ability to live a life that's comfortable, right? Keeping a roof over your head and foods. But another 8 hours that you can put into things that you enjoy, that refill you, that you learn, you grow, you evolve. And I hope that it's something that has to do with creativity, mostly. Not everybody has that strength and superpower, but what I do know is it opens up the right side of your brain, and it adds a lot of richness to your life. But again, you're going to have to pick your own words. I've got a couple more. So courage, again, bear, tiger, lion, trying to think of other words that people have used. Badger, knight, right? So courage could be, again, a different word that might have a richness and a charge for you that you could use. You don't have to use what everybody else uses. In fact, that quiz that I'm going to send you doesn't have bear or mountain or any of these other fun words. They are the textbook version of values that are pretty common, but it will help you narrow down and get, again, have 5 words that have completely different meanings. And again, a little overlap is fine, but courage might help you make bold choices, right? So if you really are clear on your values, and you have one of the 5 values is courage, or similar word that has similar meanings to you, you might know when you bump up against something, you're like, well, I want this and I want that. I don't know if I choose A or B, right? And oftentimes when you come to me as a coaching client, I'm like, what if there's more options than A or B? Maybe there's C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, right? So I will stretch you into coming up with more solutions and more options, just 2. I kind of digress there. Sorry. I get excited. So courage might come into play. Badger, knight, bear, all these other words might come into play, that you might make a decision that stretches you, that might be bold, might be exciting, might stretch you, as a result of taking the easy path, the path that might not be as exciting or offer a lot of growth or opportunity or open other doors. Compassion is another word. And again, there's many, many other words that could be chosen. Or empathy is another pretty popular word, is being empathetic to others. And again, being empathetic to others is not taking other people's emotions and feelings and fixing people. Compassion could be looking at being more emotionally intelligent towards others, right? Coming from a place of compassion might mean for you, like maybe you have a neighbor that's kind of mean or aggressive or whatever, and compassion might mean, being more compassionate towards them and seek to understand what it is that's troubling them, and instead of reacting out of anger, reacting or responding out of compassion. So responding out of compassion might look like sending them flowers, or dropping on, or helping them with their mail, or offering to be of service to them in some way to build a bridge and build a relationship with them. Because oftentimes people that are angry and mean and bitter and frustrated are truly living in a world and a reality that's very difficult and challenging. So when you operate from compassion, you can see somebody driving erratically on the road. They're struggling with something, right? They're having a bad day. Somebody that's rude at the grocery store, you can see them through the eyes of compassion and go, yeah, looks like they're having a really bad day. And maybe in some way, try to shed some light on their day, give them some sort of appreciative statement. I appreciate you today for working as hard as you do. And it seems like to me, you're having a really rough day. And I just want to let you know, I really like your shoes, or I don't know, whatever. Operating from some sort of compassion, I think, helps people see the well-being of others and try to lift them up in some way, bring a little sunshine into their life. The last one I chose for this, talking about values, freedom, right? Freedom, again, could be words of when you're coming up, bumping up against a tough decision, or just really how you're operating on your daily life and choices on where you want to live, choices that you want in the type of career choice you make now or in the future. Freedom could have a lot of meaning. Freedom maybe in the relationship with your adult kids or even your young kids, or freedom in the realm of family members. It can help you really look at, when you're making decisions, operating from a place of comfort, feeling patient, freedom with time, or freedom with finances, right? Maybe it's choosing not to take on a lot of debt so you have a lot of freedom. You can travel more. Maybe that is what a goal of yours is, or a bucket list is to be a nomad and travel in a big motorhome. I don't know, right? So freedom can offer you a great amount of anchoring and groundedness towards decisions that you make every single day, right? So again, if you are living currently in a life that you have a lot of debt and a lot of responsibilities, and you're really feel anchored and handcuffed to societal demands and pressures and all these different things, and you want to live a life of freedom, well, how could you have the word freedom front and center where you can look at it every single day and start to work towards freedom, right? No debt, no longer being handcuffed to responsibilities. So it really, truly, when I work with clients, it's usually not in a capacity of something really simple or ripping off a Band-Aid. Sometimes it is, but a lot of times people come to me and they're wanting freedom, they're wanting balance, and they're wanting these things in their life, and they've somehow dug themselves deep into a hole and they don't know how to get out. And values are a great place, right? How can we have this top of mind every day? Wake up with that word freedom. How do I take one more step or one more bite towards being free in my life? And that oftentimes, especially when you have a lot of responsibilities and a lot of debt and a lot of properties and a lot of people that count on you and different things, that takes time to get rid of that. Like me, I lived in Alaska for 30 years and I just was super entrenched in that state. I had so many expenses, so many things that I was responsible for, that it took me a long time to shed all of that. But it does take daily intentional acts. It takes putting things for sale. It takes getting rid of things and giving things away, and a lot of research and a lot of intentionality. Okay. So again, values are like an internal guide, an anchor. It helps you make tough decisions. It helps you create a life in your future that you dream of. Maybe it helps you make career choices and decisions. And it really keeps highly in front and center and focus what's really important to you. And again, it helps you prevent yourself from asking Reddit, other social platforms, maybe friends or family, on what they would do. Okay, because their values are going to be very different than yours. Their opinions, their advice, their life experience, what they've been conditioned to believe is right, wrong, good, bad, better, or worse, is going to be different than yours. So when you ask them for their opinions, their judgments, their what they expect. You're going to come face to face with their reasoning, their excuses, their justifications, and it's going to complicate your choices and your decisions. It muddies the water. It makes things very complex and difficult. So that's what coaching's for, to be honest with you. It helps you clear, Control Alt Delete, clean off the decks and give you that compass again. All right, so again, back to communication. When someone doesn't want to commit to you, kind of what we started with at the very beginning, when we communicate from high energy, right? I'm not talking like ADHD energy or highly caffeinated energy. That's not what I'm talking about. It's coming from an energy or a vibration that's kind, compassionate, open-hearted, open-minded, curiousness, loving, caring, empathetic. What do you think that sounds like? Right? Versus wanting things to be a certain way, demanding, dictating, right? There's something very, very different about that energy. Communication from low energy or low vibration or a low feeling is most likely going to be very judgy. It's going to be very critical. It's going to be very demanding. It's pushing for an agenda. It's pushing for things to be a certain way. And what often happens, again, like I said earlier, is it just creates such pushback. And they're going to make it mean something likely different than what you're intending it to mean. You might have good meaning, good intentions behind what you're doing and saying, but they're going to interpret it completely different. They're going to interpret it in a way that's probably not what you intended. So instead of trying to change your potential life partner or changing someone else or trying to control things or saying this is how it should be or this is how I want it to be, it's recognizing that they have their own thoughts, their own values, their own morals, their own understandings, their own paradigms, and the way that they see the future of the relationship, right? So it's opening up the door to safely have a conversation of what they're thinking, what they're believing, and maybe they haven't really thought it through. And opening up that dialogue can really oftentimes create a richness in that relationship. Like, oh, maybe, I don't know, I never really thought about having a commitment to you. Or, this is a great conversation. Let's talk about it. What do you want? Right. So sometimes it's kind of like the hot potato. They might toss the hot potato right back to you and want to know what you envision. And as long as you come from a paradigm of, I'm hopeful to start sharing a life with someone sooner than later. I really envision myself having a long-term relationship with someone. I want to build a life with someone. I want to build a life from the ground up. I want to share a life with someone and experience all the highs and the lows, starting in my 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s, wherever you are in your life. But it's just really starting out that dialogue and sharing what you guys have in common and what are the differences. And the differences are good. Like my husband and I have a lot of things in common, but we have a lot of things that are not in common. And I find that to be incredibly fascinating. And it doesn't mean one is right or wrong. It's now, let me stop for a second. I used to believe my way was the only way. No longer. I find what we see differently fascinating. Share with me what it is that has you seeing it that way. What experiences in life have you seen that have you believing that is true or real for you? Like, where did you pick that up? I'm really curious, and I want you to share with me because I'm open and curious to learning and understanding what has you come to that conclusion. To see how my language is just deeply curious, deeply wanting to know about them. Because I believe us human beings, we all want to talk, we all want to be heard, we all want to be seen, we all want to feel important. So it's really opening up space, trusting space. When we come from curiosity, it's like, I want to know, help me understand. What am I missing? What is it that you see differently than I do? And being like a child, right? When we come from a place of, no, that's not right. This is the way it is. This is the only way. And this is my way. And you're going to come along with me or else. No. That's not going to get the relationship to the next level. That is a hard stop. All right, so let's explore some other thoughts that could be reframed, could be seen from different perspectives, different vantage points, different understandings, right? Or maybe from curiosity or from compassion. So a few of them that are pretty popular, I'll start with this one. They should be more affectionate towards me. Okay. So this is a thought. And whenever I hear the word should, there's, to me, this is how I would do it. And this is the way you should do it. And this is only coming from my own experience. Whenever I have should thinking, it's because this is my rules. This is my operating system. And I think that you should operate the same way, right? So I'm affectionate, so should you. My love language, again, if you have that book, if you haven't heard me say this yet, throw away the book of the 5 love languages, please. Throw that book away. I know it was meant from a well-meaning intention, but it creates such demanding and shoulds. So anyways, I digress. They should be more affectionate towards me, can be coming from a place of high expectation. It's coming from a place of rules, a demand, wanting to control things, wanting to dictate things a certain way. You hear that? If you don't hear that, please reach out to me and let's have a conversation about it. Consider the fact that your partner, the person that you want to share time with, you want to share memories with, you want to share experiences with, maybe you want to share a life with, maybe they express affection in a different way. And that's okay. And that's all right, right? Everyone is going to, I believe, going to express affection differently, right? It has a lot to do with a lot of different factors. Us human beings are very complex. What can you learn by being curious about the person that you want to share life with, or this person you want to go to a next level? What can you learn by being open and curious at how they prefer to receive and give affection? What can you learn by dropping what you demand or dictate that things should be? What can you learn? How would it lighten your load? How will it lower that inner dialogue, right? Lessen that talk, that chatter. How will it shift your relationships, all of them, if you operate from a place of everyone expresses affection differently and no way is right or wrong or good or bad or better or worse? How can you come at it from maybe excitement, approaching it from mysteriousness? How could you approach it from being interested in how they want to play or experiment or try new things? What would shift in your relationship if you brought the topic up in a fun way and said, would you be open to sharing, trying new things and ways to share affection towards one another? Like gamify it, right? And there's all sorts of things out there on the internet to gamify it or create a mystery about it, or having fun or doing things that maybe neither one of you have done before, or offering it up as a collaboration of, what have you tried before that maybe you haven't tried in a while and are willing to share with me, right? So it's coming from that curiousness. So hopefully that's tying that all together. But again, we all have our own way of being affectionate towards another human being. And when we force someone to do it a certain way or my way, that's no longer curious. That's no longer compassion. That's controlling. So let go of this need to control. Just like everyone's sense of humor is different. My husband's sense of humor is vastly different than my sense of humor. It's so funny. Like I'll send him reels and videos and I'll just be like, this is so funny. This had me laughing. And I force him to watch videos with me. I'll send them to him. Like I try to max it out at 3 a day, no more than 3 a day. and he won't watch them on his phone. So I will go, oh, I sent you 3 videos today. Let's watch these together. And I'll be laughing and giggling and chuckling, and he'll be looking at me and he'll raise his eyebrow at me and be like, okay. And he'll do the same. He'll send me 3 videos maximum a day. There's no rule. It's just, I know that I can flood someone's. I used to do this to my adult daughters. I don't anymore. I don't send them videos anymore. I haven't in a long time because we had a funny conversation about it. And I was like, point noted, right? Again, their sense of humor is very different than mine. Both of them are very different, and they come from a different generation, and their funny language, I guess, I don't know what you would call it, their sense of humor is different than mine. And I don't get it. I don't get their funniness, just like I don't get my husband. So again, he'll send me videos, usually one a month, honestly. But he'll send me these videos. He's like, we got to watch that. We got to watch that together. And I'm like, okay. And I'll look at him like, what I'll do, because I want him to continue to send them to me because I find it fun to watch things together and be wildly curious at what it is that he thinks is funny about it, and try to understand it in a way that's like, help me understand how this is funny. His humor is people getting hurt or falling or tripping or stepping on a rake and it smacking them. And I'm like, how is this funny? Or guy friends pranking one another. I'm like, how is this funny? You know, it's like pain. I was like, he loves that. Where me, it's animal humor, 100%. Super animal humor, funny, dorky things that animals do, or animals do that it just makes me think, man, that animal is super intelligent. I just love that stuff. So anyways, you know, it's really about seeing everyone's different and acknowledging their sense of humor is different, their values are different, their morals, their principles, their religion, their political views, whatever. We, again, kind of going back to the beginning, I think that I talked about labels, right? You know, what if we take all the labels off and just be curious about one another? What would open up in this world? I think a lot. But it's learning to appreciate people that we love, admire, and adore as they are, you know, appreciating them for the way they are, accepting them for the way they are, and just being wildly curious, right? Looking at them through the lens of curiosity. What are they good at? What are their strengths? What do you appreciate about them? What do you adore? What do you admire? What are their skills? What are their talents? What are their passions? What are their dreams? And how can you support them? Right? It's looking at them through the lens of all of that. When we focus in on that, then we can learn from them, right? We can challenge our paradigm. We can challenge our own sense of humor, our own dreams, and be really inspired by them, be inspired by their strengths and talents, and learn from them. So that answers, they should be more affectionate towards me, right? Kind of, that was kind of, it went kind of down a rabbit hole, as all my videos do. So hopefully you learned something there, and you know, give me feedback, what your thoughts are. Here's another thought that's pretty common in the space of relationship coaching, which has been a major focus on my marketing over the last probably several months. So why don't they ever help around the house? It's always me. Okay, it's purely a thought. It may be something that's said. Maybe it's something that's vented on a Facebook community or a Reddit thread. But what if we shift back to understanding and being more compassionate? Because when we think that thought and we generate a feeling from that thought, would probably be pressure, frustration, annoyed, aggravated, I'm doing more. It's going to have a sense of there's an unfairness here at the house. Okay, so when we operate from that, you're going to feel that energy coming from that person. You know, you're going to probably, if you work outside of let's say you work outside of the home and your spouse is saying, you never help around the house, or spouse or partner, whatever, maybe roommate, and you're the one that works outside of the home, and you're thinking, oh, I got to drive home and I got to face them, right? I got to face them, and I'm going to feel this distance. I'm going to feel this wall when I walk in the door. You're probably going to drag your feet and come home later and later and later, right? So if you're the one that's at home and you're the one that's thinking, oh, they never help around the house, it's always me, they should be helping me, they should be contributing more. What I always want to point my clients to is acknowledge that thought, acknowledge those feelings, and then shift from from the frustration feeling to how do I want to feel in this relationship? So it could be a roommate, could be a partner, could be a spouse. How do I want to feel in this relationship? What are the feelings that I want to feel? When we get clear on that, like our values, right? Again, the values might come into play in this too. If you know your top 5 values, you can probably look at all 5 of those, and there's probably one that's going to stand out that helps you identify your come from, your energy. And you might come from a place of, how can I talk and behave differently that shifts this dynamic? How can I find a solution that's more sustainable for both of us, where we both are contributing in a way that feels good, right? So how can I so how do I want to feel? I might want to feel supportive or supported. I want to feel at peace. I want to feel calm. I want to feel patient. I want to feel understanding. I want to feel open. I want to feel curious. I want to feel collaborative, right? So when we start to give ourselves words of what we want, it can open up, like we just sit there and try to figure out 10 words of how we want to feel, can open up our mind, right? To some more clarity, a pathway forward, to open up a dialogue, to create a solution together. And when we come from that energy before they come home, they open up the door and you're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And, not to say that you have to do that, but I think it has a huge shift in the dynamic. And again, I wouldn't hit them right when they first come in the door, like, how can we come up with a solution with the housework? Read the room. It might take really waiting until a good time to bring up the topic, right? And some of you might come back at me like, well, there's never a good time, they're always grumpy. Is that true? Again, I think if we operate from energy that we want reciprocated, without an agenda, without expectation, and we go, I want to operate from being more patient and loving and compassionate and supportive and calm and peaceful, what might open up for you is your body language. It will shift. Your energy, your vibration will shift. That invites them to having a conversation about their day, right? And then that dialogue could open up space to having a conversation about the chores, right? So what is the energy you want to experience in that conversation? What is the feelings you want to experience in that situation? It's taking ownership of your feelings. It's taking ownership of how you want to lead in a conversation. Now, if the conversation starts to derail, it's time to time out. Time out. We drifted off course. Let's take a pause. Let's take a break. Let's come back to this when we both are grounded and centered. But when you come from a place of, I want some cooperation, collaboration in this, and a solution, because when we're able to navigate things, and I'm not saying it's insignificant, but it is small, the chores in the house versus major things like death and loss of a pet or grief or loss of a job or major life events or major illnesses, like that's kind of small on the scale of things. When we're able to navigate these smaller things, we'll build the tools and the know-how on how to navigate the bigger things. All right, so this is going on a lot longer than I thought, because I'm adding a lot of dialogue to this. So one of the key takeaways, I think, from the chapter is really wanting to let them be who they are without changing them, right? So we want to let whoever it is that we're wanting to have a deeper connected relationship or go to the next level with is letting them be who they are, trusting in the process, trusting that your relationship will evolve and grow, and it might take being a little bit of a leader. Again, in any of my coaching, you're not going to hear me talk about feminine and masculine. Now, I do have clients that are really deep into that research, study, and paradigm, and that's fine. You know, I'm happy to support them through coaching and whatever it is that they're fascinated with. And I can pretty much go along with any, it could be religion or politics. I can have coaching sessions with anyone in a way that my values, my morals, my principles, all the things are put off to the side. Like they don't come into a coaching session. So whatever it is that you want to work on, I'm there with you and you guide. But that's the same way with any relationship, is allowing the other person to lead or you lead and going back and forth, right? It's a dance. Sometimes you might lead and they might lead. But what I like to teach and point my clients to is, if you're wanting more out of the relationship, it's leading from how you want to feel. It's leading from a good feeling, from a positive feeling. Okay. So it's learning how to articulate, describe what it is that you're wanting in that dynamic, just in this small space, right? Or maybe this one topic. It's trusting that when we lead from a heart-centered, loving, compassionate, whatever your words are, insert your own words, it gives you clarity on what to say, what to think, what to believe, and what to do. When we shift our awareness to a higher state of consciousness, we can see this other person through the lens of love. We can see this other person from maybe they might be suffering or struggling, and being able to be more supportive, right? It's understanding them. It's seeking to understand them instead of operating from fear or judgment, right? It's my way or the highway sort of thing. I think the other major thing that this chapter points us to is recognizing your power of thought, right? It's recognizing where your power comes from. It's no longer giving someone else the power to make you feel as though they're not wanting to commit to you. Back to the original comment, right? So when we give someone the power to make us feel happy or sad, I don't care which of the polarities we're looking at, we're powerlessness. We are powerless. Sorry, I couldn't say that word. So when we give someone the power to make us happy or sad, we are no longer in power, right? We're giving them the power. We're giving them the light switch of how happy or sad we are on a daily basis. So I really stretch my clients into understanding where your power comes from. And when I mean power, I mean your energy, your feelings, your vibration, your energy, whatever, right? So however you want to label it. So if you're believing that this person is going to make you happy, this person is going to make you whole, this person is going to make you complete, you're giving them the light switch to your emotions. That is a life of suffering. That is a dependency that you don't want to be in, and that's not sustainable. That other person can't manage how you feel longer than maybe a year, 2 years. That's that honeymoon phase, right? So it's really standing in your own power. It's recognizing where your feelings come from, and really pivoting and choosing your thoughts that create the reality and the life that you want. It creates that relationship that you want with that other person. It's based out of a mutual understanding. I want to be connected with you. I want to flourish in this relationship. I want to take this to another level. And I'm not sure if you do. So where are you? Where do you stand? Where do you see us in 3 months, 6 months, a year, 10 years from now? And they, again, maybe have never thought about that. So it's letting go of wanting things to be a certain way, and having them enter in the game and collaborate and create something together, because together you guys might create something better than what you're imagining in your mind, especially if you're wanting to control or dictate and push and shove, and coming from needy, fear-based energy, fear of losing them, fear of being alone, fear of being rejected. When we operate from that, it's incredible needy energy that a lot of people are repelled by, right? You really want to be paired up with someone that has similar, same emotional intelligence. And what I mean by that is someone that is highly emotional intelligence knows how to self-regulate. They know where their feelings come from. They don't put it all on you or put it on a career or a job title or something external. Emotional intelligence also not only is being able to self-regulate, but also seeking to understand someone else's emotions, right? So if you both have enough awareness and emotional intelligence that are similar or like, you guys can have an amazing life together. Because and likely, if you're at a level where you at least have some and want to grow that and want to experience more of that, and you guys want to kind of grow together, which sometimes that is a little bit of this, that's okay. Or maybe you guys just want to stay stagnant and stay the same, but that's your guys' choice. But what it is we can go to a new level, go to a deeper intimacy, emotionally, mentally, physically, when we have collaborative conversations, when we have healthy conversations with one another and let go of old loops and patterns and cycles and yeah, finding the same type of people and experiencing the same thing. So as Mel puts it, patterns in your life will repeat themselves until you break it. I 1000% agree with that. I've worked with clients that have gone through 4 different jobs or 5 different jobs, and at their departure, their bosses or the people that they worked with said the same similar thing. And then they come to me and they're like, well, that must be my sign that, I've left all these jobs and I thought they were all toxic, but yet they pointed to me and said that I was X, Y, and Z. And so this is something for me to work on. You're right. I've also worked with people that have had 4 to 5 marriages or 4 to 5 serious relationships, and they took an audit of what had all 4 or 5 of those relationships crash and burn. And the common denominator was them. And the common denominator was a pattern, a cycle, a belief, and wanting things to stay exciting. And, that whole honeymoon phase or whatever, there's all kinds of different things. And they just don't understand what's happening. And I love those puzzles. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. And I love supporting people see things differently. But these are all things that are within your power. These are things to take responsibility for and ownership of and see things differently. In order to go to a new conscious level, it really takes awareness. It takes insight and knowledge and hearing those thoughts, the loud ones and the silent ones, and being able to choose how you want to operate. Okay. So Mel did offer a framework in this chapter. It was a really short chapter too, by the way, which is fine. I'm currently in the process of writing my own book, and some of these chapters are going to be very short. and I love seeing short chapters because I'm like, she can do it, I can do it. Anyways, but her approach focuses on expressing your needs, right? What you want, you desire, what you crave in a relationship without ultimatums, right? The rules, the demands, the dictating. You want to offer openness and space for your partner or this other person you're wanting in your life to have choice, to have agency, to feel included, to have skin in the game, to create something together. Mel highlights that people only change when they choose to. And what I know to be true is whenever we approach someone from a place of, I want you to change, I want you to be more like me, that always backfires. In fact, I think a lot of people go the opposite way and it makes things worse. So that's your sign. So attempting to force or change someone, you are going to be faced with defensiveness, resistance, and resentment. You will have resentment probably, or maybe both, vice versa. I don't know. But what she advocates for in that framework was letting others be who they are. Letting them, they're on their own journey and hopefully they want to share it with you, but let them face what they're going to face and let them go outside of their comfort zone and feel the pain, feel the discomfort and move through it. And letting me, right? So it's letting me express my needs in a healthy way, expressing them from I language. I am wanting to grow in this way. How can I do this in a way that I feel supported by you? Are you willing to cheer me on? Are you wanting to be a part of this? How involved are you wanting to be in this process as I grow and change? And it kind of gives an open window of a conversation of like, they might go, yeah, that's a you thing. I'll be back here in the back of the stadium cheering you on and waving a flag, but I don't want to be a part of that, right? Because there's been many things that I've been involved in since I've known my husband that he's like, hard pass. I will come to your event and cheer you on at the end or whatever when you're at the finish line. But yeah, that's a you thing. And vice versa. I love that we both can experience the richness of life and share it in a way that I don't demand that he do it with me. Because I know that, like, if I said today I want to run a marathon, which heads up will not ever happen, my husband would completely support me in a way that I'm here for you, honey, and let me know when you're going to do your race and I'll be at the finish line. Like, I think that's amazing and that's cool. And I want that for you as well. Let it be is the other one more. So I think it's 4 pieces. This is the third. Let it be is letting the relationship evolve how it will, right? So I think it's like trusting the process. And kind of that's what I meant here when sometimes in growth in a relationship, I might grow and then he might grow. I might grow, he might grow. And then, and then whatever. And it doesn't, I'm not expecting him to grow in the same way that I'm growing. Like right now, I'm listening to some certain audio books that are of a certain flavor, and he's listening to completely different audiobooks that are a whole different genre. And I find it fun and fascinating. Like, what had you choose that? What had you interested in that? And share with me what you're learning. What are some insights that or takeaways that you got this week? And these are topics that I'm not interested in at all, but I find it fun for him to vocalize what he's learning from what he's interested in. And I just find it fascinating. I find it interesting, intriguing, and I think it really cheers him on. I'm kind of at the finish line again, metaphorically, allowing him to vocalize what he's learning, which I think helps us concrete in and learn those things even more, especially when there's someone that's like, share with me. I'm excited to hear what you're learning, and genuinely listen. And sometimes some of the topics that he listens to are like completely boring to me and I have no interest, but I love seeing him speak about things from like kind of like a child. It's like he gets his voice changes and he just gets really inspired and gets really deep into topics in a way that I'm like, I want to be more like that. Right. And how do I tap into that same energy that he has in the space that I'm at? Like, that's how do I learn from his style of learning and what he's interested in and convert that over into my topics? Anyways, another example. And then the last point is the mindset fosters a relationship built on mutual respect and understanding rather than control. Okay. So she talks about the mindset. She talks about mutual respect. Again, I've kind of given some examples, personal examples throughout this recording. So some practical applications would be initiate conversation. Again, read the room, right? Read the room. You know them probably better than they know themselves. Make sure it's a good time, right? Is everybody open-hearted, open-minded, curious? Is everything calm? We definitely don't want to bring up topics that could trigger someone on a day that maybe they got bad news or they haven't got a lot of sleep or didn't eat or not hydrated. Being able to express your needs in a way that you're using I statements. Today, I had this thought and this feeling of this, and I would love to have a conversation about it. And perhaps maybe you can give me an outsider's perspective. Where is my blind spot? What am I missing? What is it that I could get more clarity on? Right. So I feel like I use my husband's mind in a way like it's like almost like another coach, because he does have a lot of life experiences so different than mine, and so he can give me a lot of value and experience. The thing that I have to put a pause on is when he tries to fix things. I'm like, no, not wanting fixed. I'm not needing a solution. I want to have a dialogue. I want to have a conversation. So I always have a disclaimer at the first. This is my intention of this conversation. I'm wanting to have a dialogue. I'm wanting to really process a lot of thoughts or feelings that I'm having on this topic. And I just want to get them externalized and have you help me sort them. That's all I want. And so disclaimers are great, right? I think that that's important in a conversation is what is the intention of this conversation? And I think that I learned that from Oprah, and I'm sure it's probably, she's not the inventor of that, but I heard many, many, many times, I've read a couple of her books, that she will not create a meeting or engagement or a conversation with someone without knowing the intention. What is the intention? What is the end goal? What is it you're expecting out of this dialogue? She always wants to know that up front so that she has an opportunity to know, is this something that she wants to put on her calendar? And is this important? Is this valuable to her and everybody else, to whatever nonprofit or whatever she's doing? And I find that I take that with me. My clients oftentimes will hear me say it in different ways. What is it? What is the puzzle that we're solving, or what is the solution that we're aiming for? What do you want to walk away with? Oftentimes I do use, what is the intention of this session? What is it, that one thing that you want to take away? So I think that that's important with all conversations, to lead with that. And then that's the compass. Again, it's like a value. It's something to point to. So that way, if the conversation goes off or ping pongs around or it gets really convoluted or confusing, we can go back to what the agenda was. What was that one intention, and keep it at one. And then Mel says, observe their response. So pay attention to their energy, their body language, their quietness, or their vocalist, their the octave. Pay attention to their willingness to engage. Are they willing to go deeper? Are they willing to explore it more? Are they willing to share more? Are they willing to be curious and like you? And last is respect their choice. Because at the end of the day, I think that it's important that we all feel like we have a choice in our life, right? And that's called agency. So understand that they're on their own journey. You are as well. And if this is someone you're wanting to share a life with, like my husband and I, we have, very different realities, and we're in different stages in our life. But we're sharing it together in a way that enables us both to do more with our life as a result of us teaming together as one. Okay, so it's respecting their choice and also wanting to share in memories and experiences and laughter and joy and whatever, right? So anyways, so I think that was the big major learning for me. That's what I kind of explored and took away from this chapter. Certainly I have a lot more notes than that, which I'm actually kind of surprised. Every time I get on here, I'm like, oh man, look at all the notes I have. But that was really, I think, the big nugget. I feel like this chapter, again, we're getting close to the end of the book. I think she's really reiterating the same things over and over again and using different angles towards it, or different approaches. Mainly, I think, as a result of wanting to hit all different types of audiences. And I think that's great. And that is important for me to recognize as I write my own book. So anyways, love for you guys to share with me your thoughts on this chapter or what I shared with you today. I know that I kind of extracted my own paradigm out of this, and I hope you enjoyed it. But we are at an hour, so I want to respect your time and my time. But thank you for hanging in there. And one more chapter left, and I'm still considering another book. I had a few in mind, and then one of them that really rose to the top, I got some feedback from a few people that have read it, and I'm just not quite sure it's ideal. I haven't read it yet. And anyways, I'm going to keep exploring, keep looking. If you have ideas, please comment below. All right, talk to you soon. Bye.